Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Acta November podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest. You guys, if you're working with marketing, you cannot miss this episode. Today, we have Meagan Williamson, who is a Pinterest and marketing expert with more than 15 years in growth marketing as experience. She helps entrepreneurs leverage Pinterest to drive traffic and grow their businesses. With a background in psychology, she uses behavior insights to craft effective strategies that convert. And without further ado, let's go straight into the podcast.
Welcome to the Acta Number, the podcast. I'm Mitzi, and here we'll talk about business, freelance, mindset, education, mental health, life, personal growth, and everything to help you overcome your fears, know yourself, and create the life and career of your dreams. Episodes in English and Spanish every week.
Meagan, thank you so much for being in the podcast. I really appreciate you for being here.
Oh, so welcome, Mercedes. Thanks for having me.
I am so pumped for this episode. I know nothing about Pinterest and I want to know everything. And I wanted to know everything for the longest time because I know there's a lot of growth there. But Meagan, for everyone listening out there, why should they stick around? What are they going to take out of today's episode?
Well, I think we're gonna discuss the possibility of using Pinterest as a business owner, how it definitely is like the advantage when it comes to social media marketing. I think so many business owners aren't using Pinterest, so we're going to be talking about the potential opportunity that it could offer you over your competitors, how to use it and how to get started, and really how to scale it up. I think like once you start seeing the benefit of a platform, it's like, what do I do next? How do I keep this growth coming for my business?
Wow. You just opened the door for a question that I didn't think I had, but now I have it. Now, who should be in Pinterest? Who should be there?
Yeah. So what I find is a lot of people will ask me, especially if they're new and they're already using Instagram, maybe they're on like YouTube or TikTok or Threads or Twitter, but they're not sure, should I be using Pinterest? And I think one of the best things to think about is not necessarily like what your business is. Like, I actually don't care, and this might be a bit controversial. I don't care what niche or industry you're in. What I actually turn the conversation to is what type of content are you creating for your business? And that will actually help me determine if you're going to be successful on Pinterest and if you should be there. So business owners who are creating short form video, so if you're creating Instagram Reels, yes, you should be on Pinterest. If you're creating TikTok videos, if you are on YouTube, and basically if you're creating video content, you could be repurposing it to Pinterest. And then the other side of the conversation is, do you have a website? Do you have somewhere where you are making money? So that might be that you're making money from affiliate links. It might mean that you have a website where you sell your services, your art, you have long form content like a blog. I think it's a misconception that business owners think they have to have a blog to be able to use Pinterest. And yes, it makes your life easier. That long form content is wonderful. Pinterest loves new links, Mercedes. So what that means is it doesn't just want you to share the same thing over and over and over again. It wants you to add original, unique content. And often that's made a lot easier if you are blogging or creating long videos or even have a podcast. Pinterest wants you to bring people to that like place where you're talking and you're educating and you're inspiring your audience.
So I should be on Pinterest.
You definitely should be. Yeah, if you're podcasting, I definitely think you should be. I think basically, if you are creating content on a regular basis for your business, you should be on Pinterest because you can repurpose it. Pinterest encourages folks to leave the platform and go to your website. And really, in this day and age, most of the apps, most of social media wants their users to stay right there in the platform. And really, they almost punish us if we share a link, right? We get suppressed if we try to say, click the link in bio, head to my website. Whereas Pinterest is like, no, no, no. We want people to go and be able to learn more about you, about your services, about your podcast, or about your product elsewhere.
Now, you mentioned Reels. Like if you have like short form content, I guess that works well. And now another thing that's super hot right now in social media is the carousel. So what do you think in your experience working with Pinterest? What's the type of post that performs better? Short form content, written content,
good question.
carousels.
So What we really, from a strategic, like we're going to dive into strategy. So when I teach Pinterest to my own students and people in my audience, I really teach a more holistic. So we actually want to be creating both images. So I call those like static images. Those are what we call like a traditional Pinterest pin. When you think about Pinterest and you go onto the platform, it's a single image. It might have text overlay, it might not. And then we think about video. So what I personally teach as someone who's been doing this for years is we want to use both. We use short form video to help create visibility, because the thing is like Pinterest is just like other platforms. They're pushing out video because people are engaging and discovering video. And we're kind of like, as audiences, everywhere we go, we want to be able to watch a short video to know, is this for me? Do I want to learn more about this? And we're kind of like, it appeals to our like, I want the information and I want it fast. Now, here's the thing. Pinterest is also a platform where the user intent, that means our buyers, our audience, they also are expecting to be brought to places where they can learn more and really understand you and what makes you unique and get more information. So what we want to do is we want to use images to drive conversions or drive people to the place where we make money. So whether it be that you're driving people to your YouTube videos, or maybe you're driving people to your website to where your products are hosted, whatever it might be. And then we're going to use video to really create that visibility and to be shown across more surfaces on the platform. So we use them together. Now, to answer your specific question, we can share carousels depending on where you are in the world. So just a note of caution that depending on whether you're in the US or North America or South America or the UK or Europe, depending on where you are, your experience of Pinterest might be a little bit different. So right now in North America, we can upload carousels right in Pinterest, and it will ask you, do you want to upload this as a carousel or do you want to turn it into a collage? So what you can do is select carousel, and then you can upload it as a carousel, and it'll even give you the option, if you're on mobile, to add music or to add text. And if you're on desktop, it doesn't do that, but it does let you upload it. What I'm going to warn you is that when some people claim their Instagram accounts on Pinterest, it auto pulls over your carousels, and it's a mess. It makes an absolute mess of your feed. Do not do that. You can claim your Instagram account, but don't let it pull your because it splits up. Like if you have 5 images in a carousel, it will share each image on its own. And then your audience is like, what am I looking at? I saw somebody do that, or a few people actually, and it really makes a mess visually. So what you want to do is just bring those carousels over manually so that you can really optimize them and make them look gorgeous and make sense for the platform.
That's interesting. Now, I feel like I would be one of those people who, make any of those mistakes, because I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't hang out a lot in Pinterest other than like just, your boards and, finding inspo on, clothing and
sure.
house and
Yeah, and
whatever.
you're like
But
a regular person, right? Like that's just it. Like so you're heading there. That's what I would also like really put out to you and to your listeners, that if you yourself are going there and looking for inspo and looking for, I don't know, like different things that are helping you in your journey, you don't even realize it. You're engaging with an experience of looking for products, looking for looks, or even like you're planning a trip, or maybe you're redecorating your office. Your office is gorgeous. We don't need to. Your office could be on Pinterest, but we might be thinking like, oh, I want to put a shelf up behind me. And if your office was on Pinterest, I'd be pinning it, and then I would be looking for, how can I buy that shelf? Look at the art, look at that plant. You know what I mean? Like we don't even realize it. We're engaging with that customer journey. And so if you are doing that, imagine how many people in your audience are doing the exact same thing. And I'm not talking about just e-commerce. When somebody's starting a business, if somebody's looking to, they're getting up a pet, they want to think about hiring a dog trainer. If you're looking to get healthy, you're looking for recipes, supplements, ways to really help to get better eating habits, maybe looking for nutritional support, or maybe you're looking for fitness help. Really, no matter the niche or industry, if people are searching for something, they're on Pinterest.
talking about the people who are on Pinterest, because I was I was
Mhm.
under the impression, like not
Mhm.
now, but a few years ago, I was under the impression that Pinterest was for moms only. And like there was,
Mhm.
the age range was, women over 50, because usually my friends' moms are always on Pinterest.
Yeah,
But
planning a
I
project.
probably may
Yeah.
be super wrong. Now,
Yeah,
what's
well,
the
we've seen a lot of
usual?
changes. It's a really good question because I think not enough people, Mercedes, are actually talking about this. So, what we did see is like what your own personal gut feeling was true years ago, but it was more like 7, 8 years ago. What's the funny thing about that is those people actually have the most money to spend. They have the buying power. So, as a business owner, you kind of need to acknowledge that. Like, one, if even if your audience is younger, do they have the money to actually buy things from you? Not always, but we do know that, especially in most households, and I hate to say this because I'm a mom myself, but it's true. I'm the CEO of my business, but I'm also the CEO of my home. Before our call, I was doing like my Monday morning ordering. So I was ordering things that we need, things that we need to top up on. I was online, I was on some e commerce shops. And like that's just part of like I like doing it. My husband's not good at it. I'm good at it. But we have to think about our audiences. And the truth actually with Pinterest is we've seen a massive shift to a younger audience more recently. And I think this has to do with our social media consumption is a lot of young people are really burnt out by social media. So we've seen this sway where like all young people were on social media and now a lot of people are looking to leave because they find it toxic, they find it exhausting. And Pinterest is like the land of like non-controversial, non-toxic. And so what we find is there's been a big shift to a younger group using Pinterest. Now, as a Pinterest expert, I would still actually say that I have the same bias that I actually think older people have more disposable income. But those younger folks are influencing what's on the platform. That's why we're seeing more video. They're also influencing what's trending, what's really popular, but we're seeing a much more diverse audience. Heck, even like when I had a family and I was working on Pinterest, a few years into it, my husband was like, you know what, as a dad, like I want to learn more about these like different things I could be doing with my kids. And my husband created a Pinterest account. He doesn't even have an Instagram account. And he was like, I want to get on Pinterest to like find projects and like think of cool things to do. So we are seeing more men, we're seeing more young people, and we're seeing more people actually shop right on Pinterest. And with that, we're seeing like Pinterest is evolving to be more of an active marketplace so that pinners can easily find products and buy them right there on Pinterest.
That's so interesting. It's like every
Hmm.
social media has their own, marketplace, and I feel like with
Hmm.
Pinterest, especially, it's been evolving for longer actually than maybe even Instagram or TikTok that is quite
Yeah.
new. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Now,
around longer, right? And actually, just on that point, to riff off of that, so Pinterest from day one was this place for people to like it was Pinterest. So it was like a place to like pin your interest, pins things that you're like in wanting to do or be inspired by or something you are planning. And what's really interesting is it's a search algorithm. So from day one, the technology has been engineered to help pair people with ideas. And this is really, really powerful as a business owner. So the way that we use Instagram, like, yes, it's become an active marketplace. Yes, TikTok has integrated search and active, like, TikTok shop. But the thing is that Pinterest has been hardwired or built from day one. So instead of like starting out as an image sharing app for connecting with your friends, for following your favorite celebrities like Instagram, that's why I mostly go there. Pinterest from day one is like, oh, you're looking to redesign your bedroom? Let me show you inspiring, gorgeous bedroom pictures. Let's look at headboards. Oh, you're getting a cat? Let's look at what you need to get a cat. So it's funny, it's always been trying to much more like Google, like you have a problem, I have a solution. How are we going to get your people to find your solution? And that's where the opportunity lies for business owners.
you're making me question something. As you were talking, I was writing down because I'm like, oh, I need to ask you this and that. But
Mm.
what you were talking about, it sounds like do you know how the algorithm works there, or give or take, like how it
Yeah.
works? Is it like
Yeah.
with any
Yeah.
other social media? Does it work on like what you do outside the platform or inside of the platform? Because
No, so
I'm just
it's a
asking as a
search.
complete
Yeah,
new.
yeah. So if I was to describe it, like for someone who didn't have any idea, is that I want you to think about how you use Google. So when we get onto Google, we already have an idea of what we're searching for, right? So it might be like how to cook an egg, where to buy eggs, or maybe it's like I want to have a type of certain type of eggs. Eggs prepared Egyptian style, for example. I'm trying to think of like something unique. I feel
Yeah.
like I once had like shashuka eggs and I was like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, how do I make these at home? Right. But, or like, do I need a special pan? Where can I? Oh, here's a great example. I recently became obsessed with bubble tea and I can't afford to keep buying bubble tea. So I was trying to find where could I buy bubble tea, like the balls, to make it at home. And so I was connected with Taiwanese grocery stores in my city. I live in Toronto. It's incredibly diverse. You can buy everything and anything here. And so just to like sort of set the stage is that you already have an idea what you want. And so Pinterest is the same, but it's visual. So we use words to find things, but we're using our eyes to make decisions. So what you want to think about is like the fact that that technology wants to show people the relevant thing they are searching for. So you might enter on Google how to make bubble tea. Okay, so once I have my bubble tea ingredients, I might be searching like how to make bubble tea. The thing is I tend to be, and I don't know if you're like this, but I tend to like, I can tell by a picture, by an aesthetic, if that's something I'm gonna make. So I wanna make matcha or green tea, bubble tea at home. So on Pinterest, I would pop the words like bubble tea, homemade green tea into the search bar, and then I would make my decision based on the images I see, right? So I'm going to look for one that looks like more aesthetic. I'm going to look for one that doesn't look too complicated because I'm just learning how to make it at home. And so what we do is that we want to think about how Pinterest is this really sophisticated algorithm that basically is using images and words to decide who should I show this to? Who's actively searching for it? So as a business owner, that's why your images in your video are very important. And the words you put with that promotional thing that you're looking to share to Pinterest, it helps Pinterest decide who is this for and who is it relevant to. And it's all based on relevancy. It's basically like a fancy algorithm to decide. And like a good example is if you've ever looked at something on Pinterest, say you're planning a trip to Paris. Okay. So you maybe look up like where to stay in Paris or Paris hotels. Or one time I did a search for Paris boutique hotels. And so in my feed, I saw all these gorgeous hotels and influencers there. And so I was doing some reading, and the next day I got on Pinterest to do something else, but it remembered that I was like searching up Paris. So it started showing me other pins where to go to Paris, what to do in Paris, what to eat in Paris, where to stay. So it was like about neighborhoods. So it was trying to say, like, hey, I know you're planning a trip to Paris. How can I show you other content that will help you in your customer journey of planning a trip to Paris? And that's how the algorithm is so sophisticated. It will also show you that if you were like interested in, say, like a silk scrunchie, it will show you other silk scrunchies that are similar to the one that you saved the day before because it knows that you like it. So I was looking
Yeah.
for nail inspiration, and like I still to this day, like that was about a month ago I went to get my nails done, but it will still show me similar looking but slightly different nail inspiration because it's like, hey Meagan, you want nail inspiration? We got it.
Right. Wow. Now you touched on a point that I'm like, and I feel like I'm not the only content creator out there who has not an issue with it, but like I'm not the best with aesthetic things or aesthetically pleasing things when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to creating content. Now, you talked about how, because yeah, Pinterest for the longest time, it's to me, it's like um the epitome of like aesthetics. You go there, you
Mhm.
create your boards, how you want everything to be super curated. I know people use it to plan their weddings. Like there's so
Yeah,
many
exactly.
ideas. Now, what if you're repurposing your content? Let's say that,
Mhm.
on my socials, I upload these shorts for my podcast. Let's just put that as an example
Yeah,
just to give you an example, probably not the most aesthetically pleasing thing ever because it's not a super curated video
sure.
or, does that still work? Do you
Yeah,
think that
actually, it
there's an
does
audience
better.
for that? Oh,
So
really?
here's the funny thing is that we have this idea, like people started saying like the Pinterest mom or the Pinterest wedding. The thing is that that's just an aspiration. The reality is that if you create content that's helpful, content that's educational, that solves a problem, even if it's not aesthetic, it should be on Pinterest. And I think that's just it, that Pinterest pinners are planners. And so sometimes they're not always looking for the most aesthetic picture. Are we all guilty of saving or pinning an image that is aesthetic? Sure. But the thing is that it's like, it doesn't always have to be perfectly curated. And I think that we actually find that for a lot of my students and a lot of my clients, some of our most viral content is literally not aesthetic. I would even say go as far as saying it's ugly, but it's helpful and it's highly useful. And that's really where Pinterest is different. I have to say that I got out of blogging because I was a blogger at the time before Instagram. So it was like you didn't have to be like a super aesthetic. I do not have an aesthetic life at all. I have two dogs, I have two children, I have a messy husband. My home, like I actually joked before we hit record, like I protect this little area to be clean, but like off of the shot is my husband's little like messy area. And so I think that Pinterest actually is so much better for people like us because it's just highly realistic and we have everything. And here's the thing, it's not a social place. Your friends aren't looking at your pins. I feel like it's perfect for people who are introverted. The thing is, it's an evergreen marketing channel. You pin today and people will discover you for months and years to come. My traffic drivers to my website are all from 2 years ago and last year. So everything that's driving product sales, purchases, I ghost. So Mercedes, this is like a guilty thing about me. It's like when I'm on, I'm like everywhere. I'm like, but then I just go through times, especially if I'm tired, if I've been sick, or I go on vacation, I don't want to be on my phone. And so I'm not active on social media. And the second I
Very
walk away from Instagram, the second I stop showing up on TikTok, everything dies. And I have so many friends who like they're very successful business owners. They stop posting reels, they stop making sales. Not me. People I've built in growth in evergreen ways for my customers, my future customers to discover me every single day. So things like Pinterest, SEO, YouTube, basically platforms that are engineered to help people find me every day, even if the post is from a year ago or 6 months ago. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need to do things like Instagram. You do. I think Instagram is great for conversations, for really nurturing your audience or sending that direct DM. Pinterest is built for discovery, finding new customers, finding a new audience, and then you bring them into your world. They follow you on Instagram, they're watching your stories, they fall in love with your program, they buy it, or they subscribe to your podcast because they see an episode that they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. I want to learn more about that." And that's the magic of Pinterest is messy, it doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't need to be aesthetic, but it does need to be helpful.
I love that because it sounds that it's a platform that is built more for the long-term plan rather than, just the fleeting
Absolutely.
content. Like I'm imagining somewhat like YouTube having a blog or even TikTok that has good SEO, then the rest of
Yes.
the platforms are really bad for, evergreen content and SEO. And this is something I
Mhm.
want to ask you. How does the SEO work on Pinterest? Because I know that if you search for things
Yeah.
on Google, you'll find pins, you'll find boards.
Yeah, that's right, because it's all connected. So, well, there's two parts to my answer. So, one, the SEO, so Pinterest SEO is a term you'll hear used, but really what we're talking about is Pinterest keywords. So on like for Google, we do search engine optimization, and for Pinterest, it's very similar. But the thing is that pinners do use different words. So and actually, when we were talking earlier about the bubble tea, I gave kind of an example. On Google, I might put in something like where to buy um, the bubble tea beads. I think they're pearls, they're called. Whereas and so I would put like a complete sentence and I would put like a long tail keyword and it would show me things related to my city. Whereas Pinterest isn't like that. So no matter where you are in the world, it just wants to connect you to good content, to relevant answers. But on Pinterest, people are more like, what's the best bubble tea? How to make bubble tea? How to make bubble tea at home? Bubble tea tutorial. So people enter keywords and some of them tend to be shorter, but they also add descriptive words. So easy, matcha, uh, healthy, all these sort of like adjectives, different alternatives. And so people are searching in a much more shorter way, typically. We call those short tail keywords, or on Pinterest, it's your Pinterest keywords. So you want to use Pinterest keywords to really help people discover you. I always call this solve what they search. So you create a product, you create a service. How can you map that on to your audience's search behavior on Pinterest so they can find you? And that's called ranking. So you really want to rank on Pinterest. And the beautiful thing is that you touched upon is that Google and Pinterest are connected. So if you start popping off on Pinterest, it sends a positive signal to Google and you can begin to rank on Google. Now, that's the beautiful thing about, and Google has actually announced in the last year that it's more important to ever that if you want authority or to rank in terms of search engines, that you need social signals. Now, some of those social signals are related to Pinterest pins. So it shows this is a really great piece of content and it's being shared on another platform. So it's the same way that like how we go viral. There's actually a concept called by Jonah Berger. He talks about contagion and it's like, how do things go viral? And if you think about it, if you create content that's highly shareable, so things that people are sharing in a group chat, that maybe your auntie is sharing to her feed. We actually can't share news in our feeds anymore here in Canada, but that aside, it's the type of thing that if something is valuable enough that people are sharing and saying like, hey, have you seen this? Oh, did you see this reel? Oh, did you see this Pinterest pin? Did you see this project? It tells Google and other social media platforms that are measuring signals that this is a highly viral piece of content that's going to, if it's being shared, because think of that denotes value. That if somebody's like, if you put out a reel that I learned something that you're sharing and I want to show my biz bestie, what am I going to do? I'm going to share your reel with her and say, have you seen this? Have you watched this? Have you heard about this tip? And then that sends a signal to Instagram. It sends a signal to Google that your reel is really valuable, that people are sharing it. And we know that now. And Pinterest has always been about saves or shares. So it's kind of like if you're creating that valuable content that people want to save it, they want to come back to it, they want to share it with people, then you need to be on Pinterest.
Wow. I'm mind blown. Like you're giving me all of the tea, like all the bubble tea. Now,
yeah, all the bubble tea, honestly.
Yeah, please, all the bubble tea. Now, wait, you're talking about sharing, and I'm curious because I never actually posted on specifically on Pinterest. I usually share from my accounts to Pinterest. Is that a good practice or a terrible practice?
Well,
like the best
so
way
I think it's better
to-
than nothing. What I would prefer for you to do is to share content on your account that links to things that you own or things that help convert your audience. So what I mean is that when you share content that links to your website, that links to your Instagram account or your YouTube community or YouTube videos, or to your lead magnet so that you can gather emails, My preference is always that you're sharing content that helps promote and grow your business. And we want to be able to measure that. So Pinterest allows you to claim your website, and it also allows you to claim your Instagram account. So basically it's saying like, oh, Mercedes owns these things. If people link to this, we're going to show her the numbers associated with it. The thing is if you're creating valuable content, people might already be sharing it to Pinterest. And that's actually what we've seen with Instagram content. A lot of pinners will curate and save Instagram content to their Pinterest account. And then now, if you claim your Instagram account, you can see what people are sharing. And it's like really powerful. They can be like, oh, I had no idea. I went viral for this like Instagram post that I created 2 years ago. But once you claim your account, it's like, oh, this belongs to Mercedes. We're going to tell her, what people have been sharing from your Instagram account or your website. And you can really see what's resonating with your audience. It's so, so powerful. So that's really my preference, is that you share links to that. But obviously linking to anything that really is involved with your business is just smart business. You just can't track the analytics as deeply.
Right. So just to dumb it down, see if I understand. So let's say that I create a short for this podcast, right? Now, let's say that I want to post it on my Pinterest account. Do I need to download it and then post it?
Yeah. So this is what I would do.
Or just share from my account. This is what I'm just
so what I would prefer for you to do is, if you're going to be repurposing content. So if you created a video, you post it to Reels or to TikTok or even YouTube, and you don't have the raw content, like sometimes some people have the raw video before they upload it. But if you want to use the video that you created in Instagram, because maybe you add captions, maybe you add some cute like text overlay, what I want you to do is to use a free watermark remover. You can use Canva, Snap app, or Snap Insta. Like there's just Google, or even go on YouTube. Free watermark removers. Remove the watermark. Now here's the next step. You didn't touch upon this, but there's a few different things that could be your, what we call your destination link or your link. If you create a blog post for every podcast episode or something on your website that you link to, I want you to drive people to that. Okay. Now, if you don't have that, you can drive people to the Spotify or the app podcast link that's hosted elsewhere. That would be my second preference. Again, that's going to result in more people actually downloading your episode or subscribing to your podcast. Now, if you don't want to do that and you're kind of feeling like you don't have much time and you're feeling kind of lazy, you can just link it right to the reel. And the hope is they'll come to the reel, watch the reel, follow your Instagram account, and then what you're doing though when you do that is basically you can't track your data. So once they go to Instagram, we lose them. Whereas I think that we can better track traffic to your podcast and to your blog, your website or blog, if you create blog content for your podcast. But I know not everybody does. So, I don't want people to feel like, oh, well, it's not going to be valuable. It's valuable for you to share it, even if you're linking to the reel that's on your Instagram account to talk about your podcast. It really just depends what your own content plan is.
This is so interesting. And now the SEO part, do you feel that maybe adding hashtags, does that work? Because some platforms are not pushing hashtags.
Yeah.
How does it work with Pinterest?
Pinterest was not a platform where we saw hashtags originally, but the thing is that people were pinning Instagram content, and the Instagram content would pull over the hashtags. So we saw hashtags leak onto the platform, and I'll be really honest, it was really messy. Pinterest first years ago said use hashtags. Then they said you don't have to worry about hashtags. So they never said explicitly not to use them. They just said it's not important. That actually broke at a virtual summit that I hosted in 2020, where 10,000 people came to learn about Pinterest. It was really, really cool. And a Pinterest employee said to us, like, we don't have to worry about it. Let's just focus on keywords. So what's interesting, as a Pinterest strategist, I always took what they said, but I was also like, but why am I still seeing hashtags on the platform? So you're telling telling us not to use them. So I was a little bit of a rebel. I got some flack for it in the Pinterest community where other Pinterest educators were like, no, 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 Pinterest says don't use them. But the thing is, they didn't say not to use them. They just said they weren't really that important. So what I always kept doing is I kept sometimes using a few hashtags so we could cover our bases, right? Like sometimes we want to experiment. And I think having that experimental mind really is helpful when it comes to marketing. And the thing is that hashtags disappeared. Then they came back, Mercedes. So everybody that followed my advice benefited from it. And what we find is that we don't really use hashtags on the platform, but if you do add a hashtag, Pinterest strips the hashtag symbol and understands what keyword it is. So I always recommend using one or two broad category hashtags. So for people like you and I, we might use like hashtag marketing, hashtag social media, or hashtag business. Don't use niche trending ones like, Meagan's advice or Meagan's Pinterest tips. Don't ever use anything like that unless you're like a big company that has a trending hashtag. Really, when we think about hashtags, we're just using them as an opportunity. They're very similar to keywords, and keywords are really the most important thing. So using those like, simple, concise words that tell people what you're promoting on Pinterest to help them discover it. So don't use cutesy terms. Don't use like, your own little made up words. Literally use text that matches search behavior.
Right. It's interesting how it's all mostly short tail keywords there from everything.
Yeah.
It's just like short form. I love
Yeah,
it.
there is room for long tail, like especially people who are very niche. Like if you were like, a social media expert who specializes in veterinarians or something like that. The thing is, we know that there are people who are looking for very specific, very niche things. Like, for example, I have a student right now, and she specializes in like lifestyle content for women over 50. So there's a lot of content for that. When you search just women over 50, there's a lot of fashion, a lot of beauty, a lot of health. But when you start getting very particular and you kind of like, we call it like go down the funnel and you keep adding more words to become long tail keywords, the search gets more and more narrow. And there's pros and cons to that as a sort of like as a growth expert. When you create highly specific content, your pond or your potential pool that you're coming from is very small, but then you're going to get super hot, relevant people. Whereas when you cast a wider net, you're going to attract more people. Your numbers are going to be flashier, but it doesn't mean that they're actually going to be your potential customer or subscriber or listener. So you're always kind of like thinking about both.
There's something I want to ask you. It's it's still related, but because I've never really worked with someone who was so passionate about Pinterest or any of my clients are even in there. And now I'm like, I'm actually about to have a call with one of my clients. We have our marketing meeting with the plan. And I'm like, I'm going to go with her with this because like you convinced me. But I want to know, do you have any examples from clients or even yourself, like winning examples, how it impacted your business or one of your clients' businesses?
Yeah, well, I've coached and mentored thousands of business owners. So like I've been a digital product creator since 2017. That's when I created my first digital product. I've been working with business owners since 2014. And actually when I ran my agency and even up to now, I do strategy sessions with household brands. So brands that people know. I sometimes sign NDAs, so I can't always disclose who they are. But Home Depot, Benjamin Moore, like big national companies and some global companies too. And so through that work, I've seen so many case studies and examples, and it really depends on what your goals are. So if I was to start very small, very personal, I gain email subscribers. So for me as an online marketing expert, my email list is where I want to bring everyone in my world. That is where I'm most consistent. I have automation set up. It sells for me. Literally, I know that this is like flashy to say, but while I'm sleeping. So for me, that's ideal. I have 2 kids, I run a business, and I like to do other things outside of work. So I don't have much time. So for me, I'm always looking to have new people discover me, to be helpful, and then to bring people and attract people to my email list. And so for me, I gain email subscribers every single week from things that I pinned literally years ago. So I've had a Pinterest account for a very long time, but I strategically pin my own lead magnets on a regular basis. And so people are discovering my content and signing up for my freebies every single week from Pinterest. Now, if I was to talk about customers, I have artists in my program who have been contacted by large agencies to have their art licensed. People make direct sales. So we have lots of people who sell like soap, women's fashion, farm goods. We have people that sell like kind of all sorts of things, doormats. We have literally all sorts of different things, and they make sales directly from Pinterest. Now, sometimes they're assisted sales. So what happens is people find you on Pinterest, come to your website or go look at your like YouTube channel, then they buy. That's very, very common. So that's why it's really important to understand your analytics. We've had people who coach like they're business coaches or they have client-based businesses. So one of my students got a $10,000 coaching student from Pinterest. So the woman originally found her blog content on Pinterest, and 6 months later booked her for a coaching package that was $10,000. So it just really depends. I feel like no matter the niche or industry, I kind of have an example of success. And what's really amazing is like that's a privilege for me, right? I've coached so many different people, but what we do notice is depending on how consistent you are, how much content you have, you're going to get what you put into it. You have to sort of commit to it, right? You mentioned earlier, it's a long-term game. It takes about 6 to 9 months to really start gaining momentum on Pinterest. Because again, remember, it's a planning platform. So people are pinning today to make a purchase in 6 months. So you really have to be patient, which I know we live in a world that's not very patient, but it's a beautiful, beautiful way to really expand your growth, to create an evergreen component. And if you sell things that are less expensive or you have freebies and you want to bring them to where you convert your audience, it's a wonderful complementary marketing platform.
I'm very curious
Mhm.
about building lists because I'm a email marketing specialist. Now,
Yeah.
how do you usually create that? So you create a post and then you would link it to your freebie, your lead magnet, or your newsletter opt-in.
Yeah, so you can do so that's my first preference, yes. So anything where you provide information. Now, if you're linking directly to your newsletter, make sure you have a page that includes enough information. I always like to call them like a medium sales page because remember, if you're driving traffic, those people have never heard of you before. So you don't want to just send them to like a give me your name and I'll send you your tips. They don't know who you are. So you have to be like, this is who I am. I'm going to teach you these things. This is my experience. This is what you can expect once you sign up. Obviously, most freebie or lead magnet or opt-in pages for a freebie have more information. So those are wonderful opportunities for you to grow your email list because you already have sort of a medium to long format sales page. Now, another opportunity is that if you create a blog post and you are providing high value information, you can embed your opt-in right there in that blog post, and that becomes a fresh link for you to share to Pinterest. If you create a video that's sort of like teaching something that, again, your CTA at the end of the video is join my email list to get more access, blah, 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 you could also put that video onto Pinterest and use it as your destination link. Another thing that you could think about doing, so video, blog posts, is if you're driving traffic to your blog archive or to your website, if you have an embedded in the sidebar, like a reason why people should be signing up, maybe they're going to get something for free, maybe they're going to get a discount, maybe you're going to give them something. If that's in the sidebar of your website, that's a really nice, if they're cruising around your website, came from Pinterest, you really want to present the least friction for them to really be like, oh yeah, this is really high value. I want to subscribe to the email list so I can come back.
Wow. Oh my, I just want to go to your Pinterest and I wanna stalk you. Now, Meagan, I know you're super busy, but I cannot leave you without asking this question before the final question. So,
Okay.
could you give us an example of a good Pinterest strategy? Like, if you had to say, like, this is a Pinterest post checklist for example?
Sure. Okay, so what you're going to do is first off, you're going to make sure that you have claimed your website or your Instagram account if you have a website. If you don't have a website, that's okay. Next, what I want you to do is I want you to set up your account and optimize it. And the reason why is because if you do not optimize your Pinterest boards, your Pinterest account, Pinterest does not understand what your account is about. So the same way that you would optimize your Instagram name and your Instagram bio, that's what you want to do on Pinterest. You want to optimize your account, use keywords, let people know what they're going to get, and then your boards become vehicles for categorizing and understanding what your pins are going to be about. Now, when you start pinning, when you want to, you're ready, you're like, okay, I optimized my account, I want to start using Pinterest. I want you to focus on what is consistent for you. So if it's sharing one pin a day that leads to anywhere that promotes your business or grows your business, that's what you're going to do. Now, some people may have heard that in the past you can share 5 things a day, 10 things a day, 15 pins a day. But what I want you to know is that it's just really important that you're showing up consistently with quality content. So if you start with one a day, great. If you do that for 3 weeks, Pinterest decides that that is your particular algorithm. That this person, Mercedes, shares one pin a day. Okay. Now, if you have more content, if you blog, if you create a lot of video, if you have a podcast that you publish every week, then I want you to really consider how you could go to 2 or even 3 pins a day. Remember that if you go from 1 pin a day to 2 pins a day, you're literally doubling your opportunity to grow your audience. So you're going to look at getting consistent. You're going to look at sharing 1 to 5 pins a day, depending on how much content you have. And you're going to do some keyword research in understanding what words your audience is searching for your products, services, the thing that you offer, the thing that you put out into the world on Pinterest. And you're going to use those words on your pins, your Pinterest posts. You're going to add that copy to the pin title, the pin description, and if you do text overlay, text overlay. And that is going to help you get in front of your ideal audience on the platform.
Wow. Wow. You shared so much. I'm going to go back to this episode and just write everything down and do that. But wow. I'm blown away. Like, how come I've been overlooking? Now I'm questioning myself because I knew the importance of Pinterest because you see it
Yeah.
everywhere, but I never actually went ahead and tested it. Now I'm like, I just
You know
want
what? I wouldn't beat yourself up. A lot of people will say, like, I tried it before and it didn't work, or why, like, they feel frustrated. The thing is, just focus on moving forward, right? So
to.
I think that we do, as business owners, we only have so many hours in the day. So you do what is sort of easy. And sometimes that is sort of also not necessarily easy, but also just what you think everybody else is doing. And admittedly, like, Pinterest isn't necessarily the cool spot. And it's
Oh yeah,
because
and
it's
not
not as
all of your clients
glamorous.
want you to
Well, and
feel like,
I
oh,
think
well,
that we're
you know
so used to the flashy thing, and it's not like it's very rare that you go viral overnight on Pinterest. And so, like, I think it's just the same way, like, why do we buy lottery tickets? Why do we, like, we sometimes do things that we know I'm not going to win this lottery, but we're like, but I could. I could go viral overnight on TikTok. I could have a reel that changes my life. Whereas, like, Pinterest is the slow and steady. I always joke that it's kind of like if you're planting seeds for a garden, like, you garden in May, but you don't have flowers till August, right? And that's kind of hard to be patient about. But when the flowers come, oh my God, it is so, like, I grow garden myself. Or right now I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising more, I'm taking care of myself. And, like, there was no overnight wow. But now, after 6 weeks, my skin is nicer. I'm sleeping better. I feel better. My clothes are starting to feel a little bit different on my body. But, like, that wasn't overnight. And so it was hard to keep up with, like, my new habits. And I think that Pinterest is the same, is that, like, we don't see the full benefit until 6 or 12 months. And that can be really hard, is that we're like, I want that little, like, boost, right? We want the return right away. Whereas Pinterest, oh my God, like, when I make a sale from even me. I've been doing this for years. When I get subscribers or people say I found you on Pinterest, like I still get really excited because I'm like, that is so great because I haven't been on Pinterest in weeks and I'm still making sales and email subscribers and people finding me and the work that I do every single day. And, that's possible for anybody.
Wow. And now talking about possibilities, is it still possible to grow on Pinterest?
Oh,
I know, of
100%.
course, you're gonna say yes, but
100%.
like
It's
how?
never been a better time. It's
Oh,
so
really?
easy. It's so easy. Yeah, and it doesn't matter on your followers. I had somebody that I did it, that spoke to me. She had reach of 1 million and she had 8 followers. You do not need followers. You can be discovered. Literally, you could go viral every day and have no followers.
Wow. That explains a lot. I remember I once created 2 boards, but they were for
Yeah.
myself. I didn't even notice they were
Sure.
public. They were
Yeah.
inspo, like ads in inspo and email, like
Yeah.
newsletter inspo for my clients, for like supplements. It was very niche. And I saw like that those 2 boards have been saved for like two, I don't know, more than 2,000 times since I last
Yeah.
checked 2 years ago. 2 years
So
ago.
that's just it,
So
Mercedes. Though that is the whole thing about Pinterest is even so you as somebody who understands marketing, is an email marketing service provider, is that you have like an eye for high quality and for inspiration. So your audience even wants to know, and any of us who work online know this. Like I am a Pinterest person. I specialize also in other aspects of marketing growth, but people want to know, Meagan, what do you use for your email marketing? Meagan, how do you grow your email list? Where do you host your website? How do you run your Facebook ads? So, like, people are also interested in us as tastemakers, in the things that we curate and we use in our own businesses. And that presents a whole nother opportunity for people is that you can share affiliate links. You can curate resources to things that you love that you want to share with your audience. And that will help attract and grow your audience as well.
wow, Meagan, you've shared so much. I'm gonna keep coming back to this episode, and I hope everybody listening out there has pen and paper and get back because this is pure gold, and I want to thank you for it. Now, before
You're
you leave,
so welcome.
is there anything you want to close with?
No, just if you're interested in learning about Pinterest, make sure you join my email list or follow me. I'm Meagan Williamson across socials. But literally, honestly, I always say to people are like, well, I couldn't just message me. If you have a question, message me. If you're wondering about something, send me a message. If I'm busy, which often I am, but if I'm busy, I'll just say, like, oh, I can't answer that right now. Or I often run free challenges. So come to one of my free challenges. You'll learn a ton. I always say to people too, like, you don't have to buy a program right away. You don't have to hire a Pinterest manager right away. Start using it yourself and you will see how it works. You'll fall in love. And then when you're ready to learn it, you'll come find me.
Love it. When's the next one? We're gonna leave all the links.
Yeah,
When's the next challenge?
sure.
I want to join.
So I always run them 3 times a year. Usually it's January, May, and September, but I make the announcement on my email list and then I share it to social about when the challenges will be. So unless something weird happens, like I have kids, so sometimes my kids get sick and I have to shift it by 2 weeks, but May 2025 should be my next one, then September, and then I open those 3 times a year. And honestly, we have so much fun. It's crazy, it's fun, you'll get a lot done, and I will help you double your audience.
Love that. I'll be there. I hope everybody listening will be there. Meagan, thank you so much for coming
You're
to the
so
podcast.
welcome.
You
Thank
share
you for
so much
having
information.
me.
Everybody go follow her and yeah, test it out yourselves. And thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thank you.